All right, all right, all right. I'm Lamborghini C. Welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited for the show today. Again, this is another one of our business segments, our Let's Chat, our Let's Talk with the Lazy Millennial. This is one of our business segments that we've been doing, around business and making sure that we're providing useful tips and just information for folks that either are entrepreneurs or even those, especially near and dear to my heart, those that may still be working in corporate America but they have hopes of transitioning or that maybe they've been thinking about it and they're on the fence. My hope is that you will gain something from these segments and be able to just take some notes away, even if it's just a little bit of motivation to kind of push you to go after your dreams. So I am so happy because this young lady, she is really doing great things. I met her on social media myself. Someone sent me one of her videos and I was immediately drawn in. And when I tell you she's phenomenal, you guys are going to see for yourselves. So let me welcome the Lazy Millennial. Hi,
Hi,
Adriana. How are you?
I am great. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Like I've mentioned, we met through social media of all
Right.
places, right? So that just speaks of the times. I think we corresponded over TikTok, to
Yep,
be
that's
exact.
exactly it.
And so I think, again, like in this day and age, like we have to use technology to our advantage. So, if there's somebody you want to reach out to, like hit them up. They may respond back. You just never know. So I just want to get started. Like I was telling the folks, we had a chance to meet over social media. We talked off of social media. And you are a phenomenal businesswoman. Like you have been doing great things. We connected because we have some synergies amongst like our businesses and the things that we provide, right? So there was just kind of a common, thread
Hmm.
or understanding and just some of the things that we go through or deal with clients kind of in our space. But I want you to take a moment to just kind of introduce yourself and just kind of tell us a little bit more about your business, the Lazy Millennial.
Absolutely. So, the Lazy Millennial was actually a rebrand. So, I started my business back in 2018 under my name, Adriana, Adriana's Virtual Assistant Solutions. With that, of course, I have my virtual assistant business going on, and I later turned that into an agency. As you can imagine,
Yeah.
as somebody with no business experience outside of like things I did in previous jobs and stuff, trying to navigate that space and not realizing the importance of actually having really good systems, documented processes, and all that stuff. Almost, I don't want to say almost everything, but a lot of stuff that could have went wrong did, like from making hiring mistakes, from
Wow.
having people submit work and it not be what I was looking for, but not being able to articulate what exactly I was looking for, like the whole nine. So back in 2020, when COVID hit, my company really took off because everyone was looking for a virtual assistant. Everyone had all these
Mhm.
extra funds. So I was like, okay, like we're doing well, have my agency, have my people. However, I could barely delegate to any of them just because, again, even though I did have SOPs, they weren't really coherent enough for them to actually like duplicate what I wanted them to do. So it was just kind of like I was stuck in the middle, doing all this
Mhm.
work, got this agency, had all these people, couldn't hardly delegate to any of them, and then there's a whole other stuff going on, like not charging enough, but we'll say system for the most part, not really good system.
Mhm.
So from there, I was like, you know what? I don't want this stuff. Like, yeah, I'm getting good clients and stuff, clientele, but I was like, this ain't the life for me. I didn't start this business to be stuck in the middle doing all this stuff.
Mhm.
So late 2020, that summer, I decided to kind of rebrand a bit and start focusing on like system, really getting clear on my SOPs, how to do that stuff, like little tips. And then I started helping people kind of like under the table, wasn't advertising it, showing them how to do like process and what I'm learning with SOPs and stuff. And that turned into them actually letting me go because they didn't really need me. And a lot of people realized, like, when we were doing this stuff, like, oh, I didn't need to hire somebody. Like, I just need to automate something. But overall,
Mhm.
once that seemed to go well, I was like, you know what? Let me focus on this. Like, people don't need another VA agency or company. I was like, let me focus really on processes and systems and things of that nature. So in 2021, turned into Lazy Millennial, and I'm still operating as that. I morphed quite a bit over the last couple of years. Now I clarified myself as a business operations consultant and technical writer. So it's just
All right.
the origin story. Let's start with the virtual assistant agency and being stuck in the middle, doing to what I do now.
Okay. Well, that is awesome. I think that was a great overview. We're going to have some great conversation
Oh
today
yeah.
because I can't wait to dive into a couple of things with you. And so, what made you choose the name the Lazy Millennial?
So it's funny. So first, I was like, because y'all know, well, now y'all don't know because y'all know me yet. But I like my little puns and stuff. I'm like, I have millennial humor. Okay, so I have millennial humor.
Okay.
So I was just like, I want something that not only sticks out, but also kind of gives a glimpse to what I'm doing. I didn't fully know what I was doing. I knew SOPs, and SOPs normally mean it's duplicate processes that you can give to somebody else. I was like, okay, so I knew I was kind of like stuck in the middle. I wanted freedom and all that stuff. I was
Mhm.
like, freedom is kind of like associated, like people see it as lazy. I don't. I see it as using your time wisely. But that's pretty much where that came from, like laziness, because everyone's like, oh, millennials are lazy because they don't want to do X, Y, and Z. I'm just like, you know what? Because I'm doing the foundational piece of business so you can be lazy down the line, the lazy millennials seem fitting.
Okay. Now, are you a millennial?
I actually am.
Okay. 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 Well, that's good. So at least the millennial generation can't get upset with you.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, I'm
Right.
millennial.
But I have to say, clearly, you are not lazy. And so,
Yeah, I was like, what the work comes after when they realize how much work it is. Like, oh, so yeah, just a little play on words.
yeah, absolutely. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about just some of the things that you are working, with clients on?
So normally people come to me when they kind of reach that capacity in business. So like they may have already hired maybe a few staff members or they may lead a department, but they're kind of like stuck like okay, the communication is not well or they feel like they're stuck in the middle like I was. Little
Mm-hmm.
things like that. So normally I help them streamline their processes and by that I just mean I just help them literally make sure everything is documented, make sure it's accessible in like somewhere, software or documents, somewhere where someone can have access to them. So I make sure that stuff's accessible.
Okay.
And then, of course, if they already have team members, of course, we're moving into like software, making sure their team has access to that and make sure it's more inclusive for them. And by that, just simply mix of videos, text, all that stuff, because you want to anticipate how people are. You don't want to just have things because you like it. So make sure that stuff's inclusive and stuff. And then also too, just making sure it stays updated because a lot of times people have all these processes and stuff, but like it hasn't been updated in years and it lives inside their head. So just like making sure
Mhm.
that stuff is continuously updated and making sure it is passed on to the team. Because the main things people hire me for, of course, is like better communication and better streamline or better efficiency with the operations.
Now, are there like particular industries that you only work with? And kind of what size organizations are, ideal clients for you?
Right now, I don't because what I do is so broad, it's like I don't really I go in depth, but like not too much in depth. So I don't really have like a particular place or client that I look for. Like if you're at the place where you know you need better processing and stuff, then yeah, I will most likely be able to help you. If I don't, or if they prefer someone, of course, like in their industry, then yeah, I'll pass them on to somebody else. But it's so like particular because there's a lot of communication and essentially people are like helping me understand what they do so I can write down that stuff for them and pass it on to their
Mhm.
team. So it's like I'm the middleman between them and their team. So it doesn't matter. I like working with people right now. The sweet spot people I have is like 5 employees or 5 team members. A lot of people have contractors now. So like 5 to I think the most was like 50, I think they had. So it's like I'm in that micro business and like really small businesses right now. I've been mainly working with soon to expand, but that seems to be like the really sweet spot because like they're at the point where they're about to expand. They're like, okay, we're about to hit next levels. I need all this stuff. Where do I go on from next? And I just come in like, oh, I'm here. I got you. So that's
Oh,
my
that's
sweet spot. So like
awesome.
I really like working with people that provide services to
Mhm.
other people. So sometimes it's other service
Okay.
providers, sometimes it's other consumers. So I fall into that niche. I really want to get back into, because my background's health science, so like into that niche, like healthcare and all that stuff. That is the goal, to
Okay.
get back into that. So I guess down the line, y'all might hear me say healthcare, but that's down the line. But overall, right now, it's just whoever needs help with processes, which oftentimes a lot.
All right. That's, I think, everybody,
Yeah.
like most organizations. And so, how are clients finding you? Because, like I said, I found you through social media. Someone shared, one of
Yeah.
your TikTok videos, which was really, really good. It was informative and humorous at the same time, and touched on pain points I see all the time. And so that's kind of how you caught my eye. So are you like are folks locating you a lot through social media because you have a great presence?
Yeah, a lot of times they just kind of like find me through my content. Like again, TikTok was another good channel, LinkedIn. But I also too, I like to participate offline. So like a lot of times people will just refer people to me. So I like to try and take
Hmm.
part of networking events, whether they be virtual, and trying to get better with in person. Like after COVID, like I fell off completely, but networking really helped bring it together, because of course I'm literally in people's business doing the process and stuff. So like having a good relationship prior, or at least building towards that, is definitely ideal, and they
Oh
tend to
yeah.
want to stay. So yeah, so definitely social media, but definitely networking is my main thing where people come and find me.
Okay. All right. So I want to ask you, you mentioned healthcare was your background because like I said, a lot of folks, they kind of tune into these because again, they may be working a job now. They may be working a quote unquote, a good job.
Yeah.
Yeah, it says like you're not gonna leave that good job. But they know that there's more for them. They know that maybe it's not filling, you know, them up from the perspective of they know that they're destined to do something greater or something else. And they just kind of feel a little stuck and they're a little scared, to be honest, to make that leap or jump. So kind of what was your,
Mhm.
kind of story, or how did you end up leaving from like, working a traditional job to taking the bold step of becoming an entrepreneur?
Honestly, the wages pushed me to doing what I did, because at the
Oh,
time I had my son was like 4, my oldest was 4 at that time, and like I needed childcare, and I was like, okay, like I got my bachelor's degree, like I'm ready to go, like I'm already doing volunteer work with health departments and doing all this stuff. I'm just like, it should be easy for me to get a job in healthcare, right? Once
mm-hmm,
I looked through them hourly rates, I was just like $13 an hour with the bachelor's, $15 an hour with the bachelor's. Someone wanted a master's for like $17 an hour. I was like, oh no. So scenes where I was like, there's got to be another way. I was like, by the time I get to work, and even if my husband and I work alternate, what's the thing called, the shifts, it's just like there's still hardly anything for us. So it was just easier for me to just stay home, and I just used to do like odd jobs online until one of the leaders of a nonprofit I used to work with, she was just like, why don't you just start a business? Because I had, like, when I tell y'all, I was just like, why don't you start a business? And I was like, oh, okay. And it took me like 3 months, and she finally was just like, here, like this is a website thing, like here, go ahead and
mm-hmm.
do it.
No,
So
that's good. You had someone kind of helping
mhm,
to push you along. That's
yeah,
awesome. No, that's really good. I think there's some people that are finding themselves in that predicament now, especially today, like with all the inflation. And
hmm,
here is the thing. Because a lot of folks are nervous and scared, right? But keep in mind, when you are working for someone else, you are captive for
yeah,
their salary constraints. And again, this is coming from the HR whisperer, right? The person that actually helps design some of those salary and compensation, analysis and compensation plans, right? So we usually have kind of a minimum, midpoint and a max that we pay for certain jobs.
yeah,
And you're kind of capped, right? At that. When you do become an entrepreneur, again, in most cases, it's not going to happen overnight, but there's freedom of growth. There is no ceiling, like there is no cap to the amount of money that you can make because you control that. Like you control how many clients you want to take on or pricing, which we're going to get into that because I think there's some psychology around that and value in yourself, or putting a valuation on the services that you provide. I've gone through that, and probably I'm still going through it myself.
Yeah.
But no, I think that that is really great. That again, you said, hey, I know there's more for me, and you took the leap. You took that risk, and it really worked out for you. So how scary was it for you to really, make that jump?
I would say I kind of felt like I was another person in my body. 'Cause I was just like, okay, like I know I need this stuff. I was like, I don't even know where to begin. Cause like I said, I started as a virtual assistant, and that was like the easiest thing to kind of like ease yourself into with starting a business. I'm just like, I don't know
Uh-huh.
what these people want. Like I started, I was like, okay, so I'm a good writer. So I was like, okay, I'll
Hmm.
write stories, and that's where I learned my first lesson about contracts and stuff. Because I ended up writing like a ebook for somebody, and they never paid me. And yeah, so it was yeah, it was just a lot of trial and error. I would just say that a lot of
And
trial and
that
error. But I was,
happens. And guys, that happens, and people will try you.
yeah,
Like,
I was like, I learned that quick. I was like, oh no, let me get a contract and make sure we have something up front.
mhm,
But yeah, it was honestly the most I can say was a lot of trial and error and just kind of like just doing it. It was just like because if you don't succeed at this, then it's just like you got to go back and figure out like how you're gonna get a job and all this stuff. And just like I just can't do I just can't do that. And it's like once I kind of put in my mind like all the freedom that I could have, I was just like, you know what, I don't want to work a 9 to 5.
mhm,
And then on top of it, I have ADHD too anyway. So it's like for me to fit into like the boxes and stuff is
mhm.
really hard. So it's just I was like, no, I don't want to get back to that.
Yeah, the other thing I've learned too is, again, like, at least initially starting out, right, you're probably going to put in more hours than you would at a normal regular job. But, the old saying is true, is that, it doesn't feel like work when you're doing something that you love or that
Right.
you enjoy. Like, up until probably recently, like, I was working literally from, I'd start probably about 8 or 9, and then my office is in my home, in my basement, and then I would be down in my office till like 11 or 12 at night. Some breaks like throughout the day. I would come up from the basement,
Yeah.
sometimes I could have lunch or whatever. But then I would, because I needed to build up a social media presence, then I would come up from my office, and sometimes I would lay in bed. I would be up to like 2 or 3 in the morning because I would get lost in creating, like, once I started learning how to do these neat reels and really utilizing like Canva and creating videos and things like that, till sometimes 2, 3 in the morning.
Yeah.
And that's not healthy. I don't recommend that.
No.
But I just, again, I want to throw it out there so that, like, we don't paint a picture, or, give folks a delusion like, oh, you're going to quit your job and you're not going to have to work 40 hours a week. Like, this isn't, I don't, get rich quick schemes don't work.
Right. Okay.
Like I said, you are a true businesswoman. Like, people that know me, they know, like, I don't deal with nonsense.
Right.
Like, I can kind of snuff out nonsense. And even in business, like, I've encountered, like, through conferences and things like that, like, people that they want a partner and they're just all over the place and yo yo yo, and the reality is, you start really conversing with them, you're going to find out that, one, they may not even have themselves set up as a business, right?
Yeah.
Let alone contracts and things in place. Like, they're just out here doing. And you don't want to get yourself mixed up, with that. Like, you want to make sure that you do things decent and in order, that you have your paperwork, set up correctly, that you actually have an established LLC, an established separate bank account, that you are doing, good business. And so I can tell you guys, definitely, Adriana, she is, an example of that. Like, she's not, one of these folks. I think that, and I want to ask your opinion
Hmm.
as well, because, like I said, I know you have a good social media presence. I don't know how much time you get to kind of watch the activity on social media, but a part of me was kind of feeling like, I would say over the last couple months, I've noticed, and I think it's a good thing, that we're in a season of exposure,
Yeah.
And that's why I say I think it's a great thing, because while, social media is a great tool and all this technology, unfortunately, some people have chosen to utilize it in ways that are harmful. And
Hmm.
they have gone the route of scamming. So sometimes when people see that you are in business for yourself, it may be because one, again, they aspire to be in business, but they can't see it for themselves, or they're scared to make that jump. They just can't believe that, like, you're really doing it. Like, you're really, there has to be
Yeah.
something. And then when they see stories of people that actually are scamming or not really who they say they are, they have a perception or a persona on social media, like they're a real estate guru who doesn't own any properties and doesn't even own where they lay their head. And so,
Yeah.
but now,
We've seen that a lot.
yeah, well, now all these things are starting to come out and what have you. What are kind of your thoughts around, again, just some of the exposure that's been happening lately, and just how do we, those of us that are upstanding, like business people, separate and differentiate ourselves on those social media streets away from people that, again, like they really aren't
Yeah.
doing the business?
Oh Lord, I will say for myself, yeah, I have seen that, and like it's gotten to the point where I can like tell just how they opt because I do processes. So it's just like when I look at their process, it doesn't make sense. But like for
Yeah.
someone that needs to watch out, I would say honestly, your best bet is to one definitely watch people, but I would say actually being in the room with people. That's why like networking stuff is big. Like when you actually talk to people that is really doing things, you're able to identify people that aren't a lot easier, but
Hmm.
it's hard. It's really hard online. I was like, even for myself, like I've gotten caught up with people and it's like, oh, like that looks awesome, or like they're doing this, doing it big, spent money with them, and nothing. Like no matter how big the name is, so
Hmm.
it's just like I guess just follow your gut with something. It's like something doesn't seem right, it's probably not right because normally within it takes a little bit, but like about a year or two, you might end up seeing them being
Hmm.
a scam.
Yeah, that. And then one of the things that, you know, like I think that helps, that I've noticed too. And again, it was a mindset shift with me, is, you send over a contract because it's something about having things in writing,
Yeah,
like, being decent and in order, having the proper paperwork in place so that if something does occur, like non-payment of services, then there's a recourse of action that I can take, right? There's something that I can, give to my lawyer, or, to a collections company, so we can actually
yeah.
take some steps to get, our company paid. I think for people that aren't on the up and up and don't have their things in order, it
Hmm.
scares them away. And
Yeah,
sometimes I know for me, it could be discouraging. And I had to change my mindset. It actually was a blessing in disguise because, oftentimes I would find out late. It would be like a couple months later or so down the road. Then, God might let me see something or reveal something. And you see, like, yeah, that's why I couldn't get connected, or I wasn't supposed to do business with that person.
right.
So I think first having yourself like set up and having like the business compliance in place, which is some of what like you help people with. I help with some of that as well. Again, kind of on the lighter side, more
Yeah,
as an HR business person, right? As an HR business partner to owners. Like I do help with some of that, just making sure you do have a good accounting system and things like that. And because I'm in business for myself, like I was talking to a new
yeah,
client yesterday, and again, I think we're going to be able to try to bring some cost savings to him, because we're going to be able to move him off of, a popular accounting platform that's pitched to business owners that he's paying for, that, he said they're increasing their prices and I'm not even using all of the functionality, but there's actual free versions, right? And
right.
so that's why it's, I think, for people that are in business, that's why it is good to network, or to maybe reach out to, to Adriana or someone like myself, because we can help save you money.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's been a time. I was just trying to think of like another tip. I was just like, it's just really just watch you, like you can normally tell like the wording and stuff is just, I won't get too much detail about that, but it's just like you'll be able to tell after a while, like watch out for that stuff. I was like, I like what you said, like focus on yourself, building yourself up first. I would say that definitely helped me. Like
Yeah.
once I figured out how I built myself up, and then when I talk to other people, I
Mhm.
usually like imply like, oh, do you already have this set up, or do I need to use your contract, or do you have a template for this versus that? And then I would say at least half the people will fall off after will fall out after
Mhm.
that, or just kind of like just cut communication. So yeah, that definitely has helped too.
And I think that's a piece of it too, the communication. I was gonna tease you earlier because people try to say like I'm bougie sometimes, but when you were just talking and you were saying like, oh, what's that? Like me and my husband were on opposite. What's that word? Shifts. I'm like, look at that. But I've noticed for myself, like, yeah, like especially like over the last quarter, like now I am so turned off. Like if you approach me and like you're starting to use certain words, for
Yeah,
instance, they're red flags. Like run the play. Like I don't want. I'm not on the football field. I don't want to run the play. I'm in business. I'm a businesswoman. We're doing business. Like when you started coming
right.
at me, like hitting me hard with all this, like some that happened to me at actually it was the cannabis conference, and probably two people, right?
Yeah,
And two separate individuals, and like they approached and then they just started talking and they're throwing out all this like hip again. It just was like something in my stomach was just like
yeah,
turning like
nah,
nah, nah, I'm good. Because again, like I'm here, we're doing business, right? You know,
right.
like that's what we're doing. Like I'm not running the play. I don't play football. I never played football.
Like,
Don't
what are
play
you
it.
saying?
Like we're business here. And so, yeah, I think just kind of being watchful, for that and keeping your head about yourself. One of the things was curious about, because I've touched on lightly, but I haven't gone into depth a whole lot, is how do you manage? Because I know you are a wife and you are a mother. Like, how do you manage? Like your two worlds. I
Mhm.
know from an HR perspective, many years ago, I stepped away from using work life balance and started to get people to focus on having more work life integration. So how do you manage like a good work life integration, as a wife
Yeah.
and mother?
Honestly, you summed it up pretty well. I do integration because I was like, there's no way for me to separate my business and my personal life. So I'm just like, they know what's they know what's up, that my kids get included and my husband. So like, yeah, I was like, listen, like when I was hosting events and stuff, like my husband's like, hey, it's Saturday, help me with these chairs and stuff. Like, let's set this up. But
Mhm.
overall, for like the day to day, I make sure I have a really good system. Thanks to my therapist, by the way, I gotta thank her out. Like had to come up with like a really good schedule for myself, because I always found myself like if I really get hyper focused on something, like it's hard for me to pull away, and like having to continuously stop with the kids, like things were slipping, like little things. So it's just like I had to be real with myself. Like, okay, I'm running a business, but I also got young kids at home. So like, how much time do I realistically have a day to do this stuff? And then
Mhm.
also within that time, like, okay, how much can I give to business and how much can I give to my house? Because I can't let them go. And sometimes things get done, sometimes they don't. But like a lot of it
Mhm.
is just like giving grace, and like my kids know, like even like right now, usually I have my 4-year-old banging at the door asking what I'm doing. He actually came like a few minutes ago, but it's just like, hey, mommy's in the meeting until this time. Like, I'll help set some things up for them. My oldest
Mhm.
usually kind of helps out a bit, but to an extent, he helps out to an extent. But just integrating. It's like, yeah, y'all know, mommy works at home. Like,
Yeah.
I gotta do this. Usually, my husband comes and helps whenever he can, but I let them know, like, I have a business meeting. I'm done with this time. Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
they live with me and they go through the steps with me. And whatever season I'm in, they know if I have to travel somewhere, they know like how to react and stuff. So it's just like there's nothing hidden. I communicate with them very well, so it's like they know. Oh, mom has a meeting, so
Yeah.
like we'll be over here.
No, I think that's good. Like a lot of people do struggle with that. I think the key to, again, because when you are in business for yourself, you own your time. And so sometimes you have to undo or unwind some of the teaching from the workplace or corporate, right? Like you don't only have to work within the bounds of seven to
Right.
five. You know what I mean? You actually, there's some things that you can do in the evenings. And again, with technology, sometimes in the evenings, I did this last night. Like there were some emails that I didn't get to. And again, I didn't want to email folks like at 10 or 11 at night because I don't want to set the precedence that it's okay
Right.
to contact me during those hours
Exactly.
of business. But things kind of, were able to wind down, and I was able to, compose these thoughts or emails, which were around like really like kind of marketing or, gaining additional clients. So it was highly important. But you can schedule like
Yeah.
emails, so you can type them out and write them and schedule them to go out at 7:30 or 8 in the morning. When I'm still running around trying to get myself together in the morning, then at least like those emails are hitting their inbox, and then they're going to be at the top of their inbox for
On
that
top.
morning.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool too. But like you find creative ways to be a little more efficient, to be able to make it work, and then also having communication, I think, is key with, like, especially with children, because they're not going to understand per se, like, like, oh,
Yeah.
she has a business or what have you. And with a spouse, again, making sure that you have a supportive partner and that you are
Yeah.
being communicative, with them. Um, just around like, hey, where your time is being spent and focused, and then having a what's in it for them, like especially with the kids. I imagine that if you do have something big that you're crunching on, you probably,
Oh yeah.
make some
Bribes.
promises that, hey,
Oh
if
yeah.
you
We can say it what it is. Bribes. I'll
yeah.
get you candy from this the next day if you let me work on this.
So I think that is key, that is key because you're going to have to deal with all of those things, and, and I think if you don't have a good system in place, for some people, it's the thing that can really crush them and it makes them crumble and just
Yeah.
say, you know what, I can't do this. It's too hard. And so, again, I think that you have to remind yourself that you're in business for yourself and you can create the flexibilities that you need.
Right. And I'll also say too, I forgot to mention this, but outsourcing definitely, like little Instacart, DoorDash, whatever it is, that's another
I'm
key
telling
factor too. I almost forgot to say that, but I was like that also too. Get a housekeeper,
you, yeah.
anything. I was like, if anything that makes my life easier, I will find a way to make more money so I can make sure I have
And
that
that's
set.
the thing. That's a mindset shift. Like I was kind of doing some of that before, I fully
Yeah.
left, corporate America. And here is the thing, and especially I'm gonna speak our community, because I like today, like I saw someone post something. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not gonna try to convince people that
Right.
they should have more because if they've already told themselves that they can't, you know,
Yeah, it's hard getting them
yeah,
out of that.
uh, it makes them feel comfortable, right? But there comes a point in time where, again, you have to, when you become an entrepreneur, you do have to think in the mindset of an entrepreneur, and that is a different mindset than that of a worker. And so you have to think and categorize things like, where am I getting the most bang for my buck? Is it more advantageous for me to actually go to this meeting, this networking, pick up another, BNI group where I'm going and networking with other business owners and we're actually sending clients to each other,
Right.
or to be at home, doing laundry, or to be at the grocery store shopping. It's probably
Exactly.
going to be more cost effective for me to outsource the shopping, Instacart, Shipped. I use it all the
Yeah.
time because I can be at meetings and someone's shopping for me, getting the groceries, and they'll be here by 5. That's what I'm doing today,
Yeah.
right? And so, just in time for dinner. And so, it doesn't like stop me or stop my flow, and it relieves stress, right?
Yeah.
Because I didn't do this to be more stressed out. And so where I can, kind of relieve stress, like, yeah, you do have to outsource those things. And no, it's not being bougie. Like sometimes it's out of necessity.
Yeah.
Like it really is. And again, when your mindset shifts and you have that mindset change, you begin to see that and you begin to look at things differently, and you open yourself up to be able to expand and scale. You know, everybody talks about scaling, right?
Right.
And so one of the things, like you mentioned, outsourcing, but even outsourcing in your business, right? So I
Right.
do provide, like, one of the wings that we opened this year with Edmond Enterprises is staffing services from Central America, Colombia to be exact. But that came about because like I said, I was spending all those hours working myself,
Right.
and a couple people, and I did not listen at first. They kept telling me, "You need some help. You should hire someone. You should hire someone."
It's just like whatever. I got this.
Yeah. And finally, I did, and it brought such a relief to be able to have some help, or somebody else that's able to pick up, other pieces of the business. And I began to have to think of it from the perspective of 10x. How do I 10x myself?
Right.
Right, because I have these goals that I want to achieve. The reality is I'm not going to be able to do everything on my own, so I have to find a way to duplicate myself. Right, I know folks are out there talking, look, that folks are getting cloned these days, but I don't know how to do that. So look, so I have to find a more practical way of, how do I duplicate myself? Is there somebody else that can maybe be on LinkedIn
Right.
contacting and engaging with people, during the day while I'm, in other meetings or something? So kind of think of that, and that I think kind of helps relieve some of that stress from you guys, which again, if you're going to go down that road, then that is where you need the services of, the lazy millennial, because you don't want to bring someone on board. And I think you've touched on this, if not today, I know in one of our other conversations,
Yeah.
and like you're not able to instruct them on what to do. And
Yeah.
so you're paying for staff, but you're not getting the things done you need to do. And that's why it's important to have the documented processes, which is what you kind of help companies do, you
That's
know?
exactly it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you end up stuck in the middle, not being able to move forward and doing all this extra work. And no,
Yeah.
we're done. We're done with
Or in cases when sometimes, again, now I'm going to go from an HR perspective, we make hires and it just doesn't work. Maybe it's just not a good fit, right?
that.
And so you never want to hold yourself captive. Like, you never want someone else to like be able to hold you and your company captive, that
Right.
you have to keep them as an employee. And so, again, if it's not a good fit for them or, for the organization, you want to be able to make the necessary changes, but you don't want to like lose the momentum you've gained. And so the best way to do that is to have those documented processes, right?
Exactly. And that's exactly what it's for.
Yeah. Now, are you doing like contingency plans per se as well?
Yeah, like I usually like, especially if it's for people that are just starting out, so like people that have like smaller teams. Normally,
Oh,
like we start focusing on like, okay, why exactly are you wanting to document? Like, are you trying to plan for selling, or like what is like how is you planning to X out your business? Sometimes like I'll help them map out processes or things that they should start documenting too, just to kind of like help push things along. So yeah, definitely. I always tell them it's like whenever you start a business, not only think about the beginning, but also think about how you want to bow out. And that also too helps with like, okay, let me get myself in order and let me go ahead and start documenting this stuff so that way when the time comes, or like as you're at the points of scaling, you're not having to backtrack and do all the stuff in the beginning, because let me tell y'all, it's a lot.
yeah, it can be a lot. It really can be. And I know from a previous discussion of ours, like we both are proponents of AI technology. Like we found ways to be able to use it to our advantage. Of course, there's good and bad with everything,
Yeah.
right? But I think that, even in that documentation process, are you finding ways to be able to integrate that as a way to help people?
Um, so I normally tell people just to use it as like an outline to kind of like help them think. Like
Mm-hmm.
from what I found with some of them, it's really old fashioned, because of course it pulls up information from the internet, and a lot of stuff on the internet is really outdated. So like I tell them now, it's good to use for like maybe like an outline, but I was like at the end of the day, just kind of focus on what you're trying to do, answering like important questions, like we'll come up with that, and then going from there. Because yeah, AI is awesome, but it'll
Yeah.
have you sound
You
like everybody else too.
Well, and this is the thing with the AI technology. I tell people it's not, it actually should enhance your thinking. Like it's
Yeah,
not to replace your brain.
right.
It's not, if you think of it from that perspective, then you're in trouble. Because again, anything that you do create with the technology, you need to have some checks and balances in it. And I think people miss, like, you're able to have it pull up articles that it's pulling data from. You're able to have it list websites so that you
Yeah,
can go and check that data, because I've used it like even for salary analysis and comp plans, but I have it provide either, like the publications it's getting the information from and the website links, like so I can click and see that
yeah,
it's, what it's putting here and that it actually makes sense. So you got to validate the data. And and then it also, again, like I said, chunk in, junk out. So you have to kind of consider like your prompts and what you're asking it to do, and put some time into learning how to ask it the
yeah,
quote unquote right questions that are going to warrant the output that you want. But yeah, I think there's a place for it, and people are worried about it taking their jobs.
yeah,
But again, if you learn how to use it, I think that you're kind of setting yourself up to be sought after.
yeah,
You know?
definitely.
Yeah, and so, I think that, I know some people are scared off by it, but I think, kind of dip your toe in the water and learn a little bit of something about it. But it's not an end all be all savior per se.
Right.
I found I like to, because sometimes, with my role, I do have to be kind of a little more strict, and, you know, like I was helping someone for the last couple of days with kind of a wrong hire, and strategically they, we have to make a change, and we want to do it in a way where they're not going to be hit with, unemployment insurance and having to pay that and all
Yeah,
these other things. And so as I was drafting the like I had it help me draft the termination letter, right? Because sometimes I found that because I can ask, look, you're already laughing. I think
yeah, I know. I'm laughing.
because I can ask the AI chat GPT specifically. So I have a like I've done this before in other instances. Sometimes I can ask it to be compassionate where I don't have the mind or want to be compassionate, and it would type out, like, I'll give it all the facts, like, look, we need to terminate this person because they did XYZ, from this company, which violates their,
Yeah,
policies and da, 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 da. But I want it to be professional. I want it to be warm and compassionate, but stern. And it wrote the nicest letter that when I read through it, actually grabbed my hand. I was like, oh, this is really nice.
yeah. 'Cause I was like, I'm not. I haven't been gifted in that area. It's just like technical writing. I got to be technical. It's like what you did was wrong.
Yeah,
So that's why I
yeah.
love AI for that stuff too. So I was like, okay, let me make sure it sounds
Yeah, yeah,
better.
it's mind blowing that you can tell it to, like, hey, can you be like this straightforward, but then can you be compassionate with how you say it, and it
Right,
will. So I'm like, one, first learning my strengths, and then where I need help, and then using the technology to kind of help push me along. Um, but let's talk about having people work for you. I think we probably could share some horror stories here.
oh, yeah, it's
Um,
funny. I actually shared one of my horror stories earlier today from
oh
one of
my,
my like early hires when I had the agency. Like this person, I hired her, but to be fair, I take my blame in that too. Like, be fair, like I used a contract, I just used a template. I didn't really specify the details of what I actually wanted her to do. So like that was on me. But overall, still stung. So like I had them make a newsletter like template. Like we got the template. I just want her to like design something nice. I was like, I do not
yeah,
have a designer bone in my body. So I was like, just go inside the software and design a newsletter. Seems simple. somehow that took like a 24-hour process over 3 days. And yeah, so when she sent over her invoice, and I was just like looking at the hours she docked, I'm just like, I know for a fact that you did not do for that amount of time. There's nothing in here. But because the contract I had wasn't, I didn't go into details and stuff, I had to pay it. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, lesson learned. But oh god, like hiring that, honestly, a lot of my mistakes is why I started doing like the departmentalization and stuff for process documentation. Because beforehand I was only focusing on like the processes that they have now and kind of like maybe updating or improving it a little bit. But I was like, all right, no, we got to focus on like the whole shebang. And I was definitely get with someone in HR. I was like, even though I know basics, I know enough for like the operational standpoints, but I was like, y'all got to get professionals to kind of like really hammer y'all in there. So I was like, that's where you would come in. So like I probably get them like set up like, okay, you know, you want this person, maybe like help them with certain things. All right, specify that with HR and
Well,
make sure.
let's talk about that, right? Because that's hard for some people and it's interesting. I actually caught a YouTube special, a podcast where they were interviewing this lady because, again, like in my overall business plan, I'm thinking of down the future. And so the topic was around buying already made like businesses, like taking over
Yeah,
businesses that you can, come in and purchase that you don't necessarily have to run, but kind of through, and she's had success at this and, has really been able to build an empire at a young age, and it's great that it's a woman,
yeah,
leading this charge. One of the things she said though to the interviewers is, because she talked about, sometimes you got to come in and you got to move people out. Like they're not a good fit. They're hurting the business. They're hurting the bottom line. They were operating against the company culture. And she just said, if you are scared to fire people or let people go, you don't need to have a business. And
yeah,
I was like, because I kind of feel like that, but I don't know if I would say it that straightforward. But
yeah,
telling the truth, right? And I think one of the things that I know I found in business, and I think, again, as a woman, right, as a female, I know like last year someone gave me some advice who also, she herself is a businesswoman, and she was just saying, she was like, you're gonna have to find your voice. Like you're gonna
yeah,
have to find your voice, and just remember this is your business. Because people, like, I love her, like she's very straightforward. She was like, because people will try to play with you. And I was
yeah,
like, yeah. And so, and that's with clients and especially people that work for you. And again, when you recognize that people just aren't a fit, it's time to let them go. And when that integrity just isn't there. And I had to last week, I had to, and don't let things just draw out because you're
yeah,
not going to feel good about it and it's going to change you and who you are as a person, right? And it's okay for you to be like your nice, sweet self and your feminine self, and to be a successful businesswoman. You're able to do that. Unfortunately, there are some people that will think that that's an open door for them to be able to take advantage, right? And it's not, because they're not used to working in cultures or environments where maybe things are a little more laid back, or you're actually able to have fun at work,
yeah,
right? And it's not stuffy or cutthroat, because like, whose throat am I cutting here? Like, it's me,
right,
it's my business, right? So I don't have to, that's one of the joys for me personally of kind of leaving that corporate environment. It's not dealing with some of that, the political, stuff that goes on with it. But at the same time, like, I'm not going to have people essentially stealing from my company or from me, well, personally. So when there are issues, like, you do have to be upfront about it and you have to address them right away and nip it in the bud, you
yeah,
know, or it can get out of hand. You're going to drive up your cost for no reason,
yeah,
for no reason at all. And then at the end of the day, do you want, again, it depends on what are your company values. So it's important to identify those as well. Like integrity is key. It's really key for me. I have a business named after my late father. It's his middle name, Edmund Enterprises, Clinton Edmund Frazier, and so it's near and dear to my heart. And so I run my business with integrity because it's leaving a legacy for his name, and I'm just not going to have people that aren't integral that are
Right.
working or a part of the organization. You know, and so have you struggled, or did you have to like build yourself up to be able to handle, really it's handling conflict, because that's the thing. I think a lot of people are
Yeah.
conflict avoidance, and they try to avoid conflict at all costs, but being forced into entrepreneurship, like you have to take conflict head on. How did you like, was that already in you, or did you have to grow into that?
So for me, I kind of had to grow into it more because I don't like being around conflict and stuff. But it's just like I have to do it because I own a business, and I was like, I can't let people play me like they said. So even clients, but like when it came to like the team members, I actually had to like let go of. It was just a matter of how, because like with the person, like I know that lied about the hourly stuff, like it was more so me having to find the right words to say instead of me just lashing out because that was my my thing. Honestly, is like I'll let you go, but like it's not gonna be professional.
And
So
they
like
didn't
my
have
thing was
that
just like,
GPT back then.
yeah, find us a like, yeah, I was like, that was my thing. Like I need to find like the professional way to do stuff. And
Hmm.
yeah, so I had to work on that. After
Yeah.
a while, my husband actually had to help write emails at the end of the day. Like I'll show him like something, he's just like, nah. He was my chat GPT.
Yeah. 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 And that's where we help in. And just from an HR, because I know people will say, well, I don't know, I haven't had HR before, like why would I need them? We help in those areas, which is a little bit different than like your attorney, because your attorney is going to give you kind of the legal stance, which is great advice that you need, and
Yeah.
we kind of maybe are able to come in and massage the communication of, or the execution of what it is that needs to be done.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna be on you too, around the documentation. Like, where is your documentation? What things do you have in writing? Do you have the policies in writing? Do you have a detailed, like, written format of what the job entails, so you can show where there's a gap or where there was a miss?
Right.
So all
Yeah.
those things are important to have in place too. um so let me ask you, just for anyone that is sitting on the fence,
Mhm.
right? They've had these thoughts of being an entrepreneur or opening up a business, even if they're going to start it, like while they're still in their current job, which I recommend. I think that,
Yeah.
if you're able to do that, like definitely, 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 like until you build it up to a point where you are able to, kind of just go solely on your own. But what advice would you have for someone?
I would say definitely stay at your job. And I know some of the people I've actually worked with in the past, like they've had businesses on the side, and because where they worked at, like the company found out they'll get fired. So like to give advice for that side as well, I would say first off, make sure there's an actual market for what you're looking for. So like if you can't say on your profile, maybe kind of like give tips like based on what you're doing now or something like that, and kind of like get like feelers out, because a lot of times people are like, oh, like information about this stuff, and reach out that way. So like you're not necessarily giving away too much. So like build up your personal brand. There we go. I was like, there's a phrase for it.
Okay.
Yeah, build up your personal brand first. So like start just talking about what you do, or like if you're starting a business in a particular thing, start posting about that. Like people are gonna look. I know I look when people are talking about something. Like, does she have a business? Or like I'll go on their profile or like send a little message or something. But just start building out your personal image first. That's the highest thing. I feel like it's the easiest way too. So like you're not really giving off a whole lot to like to the company. So if you're not able to start business, but you want people to know who you are, because
Yeah.
confidence is key too. So like start your personal brand out, and that's the best advice I get right there.
Okay. All right. I think that that's really good. And just because we're approaching the hour mark, what is something that, folks need to know about your business?
Um, I would say the main thing, as soon if you see me, see the Lazy Millennial anywhere, I just want you to think of documentation, SOPs. That's all I want you to think of. How I do stuff. I just want you to think about the foundational pieces. Just yeah. So like, if you want freedom, think about the Lazy Millennial, and then hit me up.
And SOPs, guys, the standard operating procedures for those that may not
Yeah.
know. But also, um, if someone, I guess, like why make the investment if they're, kind of on the fence and they're like, I think I do need some of that, but I don't know, like that's going to add cost to my business. Can you speak to, again, like why they should and why they need to make that investment?
Yeah. So first off, like when it comes to documentation, like as y'all can tell, like it is used in so much. When people ask you questions about your business, sometimes you look back at files. When people ask you about your organization, when you have stuff documented, you're able to be more organized and stuff. But really, I would say like if you are like on the fence or trying to figure out like, do I need process documentation or do I need someone to help me with this stuff? I like to say start off with this stuff yourself first. I know it's not, it's kind of like pushing away almost, but like I always say, just start with this yourself first because by the time you should be coming to me, you should already have an idea or at least have some things documented. So like I have resources stuff for you to get started, but start yourself first. Like start just keeping track. Like even if you have like I always tell people like if you have like to-do lists or something, just start writing little things down. It could be as simple as I for the tasks I want to do, or like if you're still working in corporate and you want to start a business, start writing down like the marketing pieces, like what exactly are people like typing in, what are they searching, and you can just honestly like scroll through Facebook and type in consultant or coach or whatever you want to do and type that in and just kind of look through different posts and see what people are talking about in that aspect. Write that down, get a Google document, copy and paste that stuff. Because what you want to do, end up doing is documenting enough, and then you can use those words that people are looking for or searching for and use that for building up. But start yourself. That's the best thing to say. And then by the time you're at the point where you're like, I want to make sure this is organized enough to give on to somebody else because people come to me because they want their stuff duplicated and make sure everything's running efficiently. So when you're at that point, then you can come find me and then we can talk about it first because sometimes people hire people like me a little too soon. So it's just like you may be good. You may need me for like maybe a few months, but it's like it's not enough to like really sustain. So it's like by the time we let go, it's like yes, you'll have stuff, but like you may end up changing direction and stuff. So and reach out. Otherwise, that's it.
Now, are you doing the documentation for them, or are they like, do they need to make sure that when they do come to you and to your organization, that they also are committed and able to commit to doing some of the work too? Or like, do you have a service option where they are able to kind of like lay it in your hands and you guys just take
Yep.
it from here?
Yep, I have different levels for that because I know some people are like, okay, so I come in usually either as a well, honestly, speaker or trainer. So like either I'll teach you and your team how to do it. I come in as a consultant, so I work alongside yourself and like your leads, and like I help make
Mhm.
sure everything's getting documented, help with the templates and all that good stuff. Or people hire me for the done with you service. I say done with you because I can't document processes without you there, like clarifying
Mhm.
stuff. So like we have different checkpoints for when people need us. So yeah. But like
Okay.
the beginning, usually I just have resources or I keep like a blog and stuff for that just for you to like get started. So like if you're like just starting your business, it wouldn't be a good fit right now. But I got y'all. I got resources so y'all can look at that
Okay.
stuff and start building yourself. But
All right.
whenever you reach the point of needing that, then there's different ways I can come in or we can come in and help.
Yep. And I just want to highlight too, you work with folks virtually, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if someone isn't in your immediate area, that's not a barrier.
Oh
And
no.
they're able to still participate in your services.
Oh yeah.
All
So
right.
I got y'all.
And how can people get in touch with you?
So I will say definitely you guys reach out to me, see my name, Adriana. Well, y'all have my last name, Adriana Richardson on LinkedIn. Send me a message that you found me here on YouTube and we can start a discussion. If you need tips on SOPs, documentation, or even how to get started all of it, hit me up because I will send y'all a bunch of stuff. So
Yeah.
LinkedIn. I am on TikTok and stuff too, but I'm not really that
Yes.
active right now. But LinkedIn,
TikTok, Instagram as well.
yeah, Instagram
Right.
too. So everywhere I'm under the Lazy Millennial. So when you type in the Lazy Millennial, I should pop up.
Yeah, and we will have your contact information in the description box. So those that are watching the video who say, you know what, I think I need to talk to her. Do you offer like a free consultation
I
to
do
see if it's a
actually.
fit? Okay. Okay. So yeah, we'll definitely have your contact details in the description box. So again, like if somebody's watching and they say, I think I may need her services, I'm not quite sure, at least like go ahead and set up a free consultation so you can find out if it's a right fit now, because maybe you are in that category where, that
Yeah.
Adriana was just speaking of, where you're kind of still just getting started, and she might actually advise you that, hey, like come see me in the next 4 or 6 months, or once you hit, a particular milestone.
Yep. That's
All
exactly how it
right.
goes.
Well, this has been delightful as I knew it would be. I think we could go on and on. It's already been an hour. I
I
can't
know. I was like, oh
believe
my
it.
god, no, my son probably. I heard him. I don't know if y'all heard him. I was like, he was knocking. Like, you done?
Oh my goodness. But yeah, we could probably talk for hours and go on and on and on. But again, the Lazy Millennial, a good organization to get connected with. Follow, like, subscribe, and share her pages so that you can get some of that information. But also, more importantly, set up that free consultation so you can find out if it is a good fit to go ahead and engage in her services.
All right. Well, thank you
Anything
again
you
for
want to
having me.
leave the people with?
I would say just to kind of like round up. So God, we gave y'all a lot of information. I would say definitely if you want to start a business or you already are in business, focus more so. Again, this goes for anybody: personal branding and building your image with your company. Make sure you document. So, like I said, little tidbits here and there. You have a little checklist to do list. Start by there, and then start breaking it down. Like, how are you actually doing it? Because because like I tell people, it's a new habit you're starting. Like it's hard, it's boring, but let me not say it's hard. It can be a little boring. It's just like, do I really need to do this? Yes, you do. So I just want to leave with that. Build your personal brand and document.
All right. All right. Again, thank you for joining me. My name is Lamborghini C. Thank you, Adriana, for gracing us with your presence today and giving us all that wonderful knowledge and information. Again, this has been another Are You Ready for Business segment. Let's talk with the Lazy Millennial.
All right,
Enjoy your
bye
day.
y'all.
Bye.